Hello and welcome to Fleming's Astro. If you own one of these ZWO cooled Astro cameras, there's a very good chance that at some point you'll run into the problem of silicone oil leaking onto the front of the sensor. The recommended fix for this is to return the camera either to ZWO or one of their representatives closer to you and have the fix done there. But if you, like me, don't have the patience to be without your camera for maybe a week or 2 weeks or maybe months if you send it back to ZWO in China, there is a fairly easy way to fix it yourself. You will need to be a little bit careful, of course, and you will also need some tools. For this we'll need a sensor cleaning kit of some sort. You can buy these in well-assorted photo dealers, and there are some sensor swabs, and you will also need some good quality optic cleaning fluids such as this one. You will also need to take your camera apart, of course, and for this I must caution you that it may void the warranty if you do this. So do it at your own discretion. As you can see in this image, the sensor oil leaking onto the sensor is not a trivial problem. It's very obvious in the images. It's also very clearly seen if you look at the sensor, and you can see that my camera has the problem to a really high extent now. It's hot in the weather, so I guess the liquid is extra fluid now, and it's spreading quickly across the sensor. Taking the camera apart will vary depending on which model you have, but this one has a tilting plate which will need to be removed first. And for this I need to use the 2mm hex key. I'll unscrew the pull screws, and I have to warn you that if you have adjusted sensor tilt with this tilt plate, you may have to do that again when you have reinstalled it. There we go. This is the camera without the tilting plate, and to gain access to the sensor itself we will need to remove these screws around here and lift the top off. And for this I also use the 2mm hex key. I'll just loosen all the screws first. And then remove them. Actually, you could just unscrew them and leave them in and just carefully lift the top off. I'll just tilt the screws out here onto the table again. And one thing you will notice in this camera, there are some dehumidifying tablets here which needs to be regenerated once the camera has been opened. We will use the microwave oven to do this just before reassembly. Right now I'll just leave them in and then we'll tackle those afterwards. Now, this is the sensor surface where you can see the silicone oil quite clearly, and we'll need to remove that. For this I will first of all remove anything that's not on the optical surface itself, and I'll use some cotton swabs to do this. So put some optic cleaning fluid onto the cotton swab and then carefully rub along the side here. This is to prevent the silicone oil from getting back onto the top of the sensor right away. So I'll just rub carefully along the edges to remove anything that might be on its way onto the front. Careful careful with these electronic components that you do not accidentally rip some of them off. Now it's time to use the sensor swabs, and you need to buy some that are adequate for the sensor size that you have. They come in different sizes for different sensor sizes. These ones are for full frame sensors, and this is an APS-C size sensor, but as I have to move it across from this side, not this way around, but from this side, this is actually the correct size for this operation. There we go. The process is as follows. You add some optic cleaning fluid to both sides of this, and then you wipe only once with each side. You wipe in a controlled motion like this, slowly across the sensor, and then you turn it around. You only use one side once. And with this kind of problem, one movement is probably not enough, and I can see that it isn't, so I'll take another one and do the whole thing over again with a fresh sensor swab. Now I believe the sensor is as clean as it can possibly be now, so we'll just put it aside and concentrate on these tablets, which are dehumidifying tablets. They need to be regenerated in a microwave oven just before closing up the camera. So I'll remove them. I can do this easily with my hands. I'll just remove them. Now I'll just put these into the microwave and give them a few seconds. I think I will start with 20 seconds and then we'll see how hot they get. Now you want to remove them straight from the oven and put them directly back into the camera, because you don't want to allow them to absorb too much humidity from the air before you assemble the camera. This can be a little tricky, but you just need to get it down into place there. They are quite hot to the touch, so I don't want to handle them too much. There we go. And just to be sure there's no dust inside, I'll just use this blower to remove any. There may be some dust from these pellets, but remove that as best you can. And now assemble the camera, and this model has a window heater, and we need the contacts. We need to orient it so that the contacts are in the correct orientation. I'll also remove any dust that may have settled on the camera sensor, and then just close it back together and put the screws back where they came from. This process needs to be fairly swift to avoid too much humidity from the outside air to get into the camera. If there's a lot of humidity inside, it may condense and turn into ice when you're photographing and cooling the camera, and you don't want that, trust me. And as always, I'll fasten the screws all the way around, and then I'll give them a little extra twist to make sure that the camera is closed and sealed completely airtight. And as always, be careful not to over tighten the screws, because we don't want to damage the thread in the aluminum housing. And now, with the camera assembled, all we need to do is reinstall the tilt plate. There we go. There we go. The last screw has been tightened and we're done. Any camera tilt that may have been corrected will now have to be adjusted again, but maybe that's the subject for another video. Bye.